All right, I think we are live. Hi, everybody. I'm Becca, and I'm here with Mira from Mad Mimi and Sally from GitHub. Welcome to our Google Hangouts. We do these every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, so keep an eye on our Google Plus page and come every week. It's always really fun, and we always talk about some really interesting stuff. And I'm going to pass it over to Mira for some announcements, and then we'll get started.
Hi, folks. I'm Mira. Thanks for joining us. We have some cool new features in the Mimi interface. If you haven't checked them out yet, I highly recommend it. One is our new scheduling feature. It's visual, and you can drag a sun across the sky for when you want to send the actual email. So just hit schedule or hit the little clock button underneath your promotion, and you can see it. It's fun. And we can also change the button text in your web form now. So instead of it just always having to be submit, you can now have it be send info or join or get your free ebook, whatever you want it to be. And you can do that right in Mimi. So check that out too. Go to your web forms and you can edit that button. And then we also have a great blog post on the upcoming holidays and all of the stuff that is around those, like Black Friday and Cyber Monday and Small Business Saturday and Giving Tuesday. So head over to our blog at blog.madmimi.com and you can read up on all of that great goodness. And today we'll be talking about spam, which is why you're all here. So thanks for joining us, and spam, and Sally. So Sally, thank you for joining us. If you could just quickly tell us a little bit about what you do at GitHub and why you're qualified to be our spam consultant.
Before GitHub, I worked for 4 years at Mad Mimi in email anti-abuse. So I spent a lot of time talking to postmasters and people managing mail servers about what they wanted from Mad Mimi and what our customers needed to do to make sure they would get through to the people they were trying to reach. And at GitHub, I have spent a lot of time as a postmaster myself. I manage all of our email systems. I'm in operations here. So I see from both sides how to deliver email and what the different definitions of a spam are, and so that's where I come from.
Awesome, thank you. So if you're just popping in, we're talking about spam, and that's not the lunch meat. That is emails that are either unsolicited or they are, there's a lot of different things that could be happening when we talk about spam, when we say we receive spam, when we say we mark as spam. And so we're just going to go through all those things today. If you have any questions for us or for Sally, or we said something that you don't understand, or you have a different question about spam, just hit that Q&A button in the top corner, and you can ask questions to us right here, and we'll get them answered. So, like I said, when we say spam, we could be talking about several different things, a lot of different things, and what I'd like to start with is, let's just start with my personal private inbox. My normal email, when I go open that inbox and I say that I get a spam email. Now, what happens when I receive that? Where is that coming from, or how does it get through, or let's say it goes into my spam folder. How does it end up there? You know, if you could just tell us a little bit about some of those basics about what spam is in my inbox.
Well, in your inbox, spam is what you consider spam, what you don't think is wanted email. That's the most basic term. But like you said, spam has many definitions, and this definition of spam is different depending on who you talk to. And the inbox itself also has the spam folder aka the junk folder, because sometimes it's called the junk folder. And so that is something else called spam. And you can mark something as spam in your inbox, and it will go to spam. So those are the different ways you can define spam within an inbox.
So let's start with the spam folder then, like my junk folder in my inbox. How does something end up there, for example?
Well, you can mark things as spam. If the email client you're using has a spam filter, then emails will arrive there because of the filter. Often, if you stop interacting with a piece of a newsletter, stop opening or reading or clicking, in some free mail providers, that will cause your email to start ending up in the spam folder.
So just not reading an email for a while can trigger it to go into my spam folder instead.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Now, let's say I click on that mark as spam button. Let's say I get a piece of mail and I say, hey, I never signed up for this. This is clearly not something that I want. And I click mark as spam. What happens on the back end of that? What happens in my email program or even out there on the web in the different deliverability black holes when I click that button?
So sometimes that triggers a response to the minimum that will happen, that will for sure happen if your email client works at all, is it will go to the spam folder. The second likely thing that will happen is that your email client or your email provider will be tallying those stats for you, associating your spam markings with the email senders that sent that email to you. And the other thing that may happen, it's less likely to happen, but when a provider has enough resources to set this up, they'll also report that spam to the sender of the email. So Mad Mimi, when there's those partnerships available called feedback loops, Mad Mimi signs up for them and receives those, and so Mad Mimi grabs those and pulls them for each of the recipients that mark. So often we can actually tell who marked spam on what mailing, exactly what happened there. That's usually for large free mail providers like Gmail just started. Hotmails and AOL have been doing it for a very long time.
Cool. And you mentioned filters before. Does somebody clicking that spam button affect how their spam filter sees incoming mail? It sounds like either your inbox kind of learns based on certain behaviors. So how do the filters affect incoming mail, and do those have anything to do with spam clicks from before?
So it will, in those free mail providers that have the more intelligent learning for mark as spam, it will affect your personal inbox, and in much more of a degree than it will for other users of that service. But they do often, those providers use those stats to figure out who wants mail and who doesn't want mail. Who who wants your mail and who doesn't want your mail. And what's far more important is what complaints they get, rather than the positive response. Like, positive response is good, but complaints are really bad. It takes just a few complaints to cause problems, even if you have a large apparent readership.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know of some folks who, they have signed up for an email in the past and they receive it, and then they sort of just don't want to get it anymore. And so it comes into their inbox and they click that mark as spam button to get rid of it, because they know that when I click that button, I won't get this email anymore. Can you talk us through why that's a really bad idea for people to do?
Well, you definitely don't want to do that for mail that you want in other people's inboxes, because when I say just a few complaints, I'm talking about you don't want above 1 complaint per 1,000 emails. You start to see issues above 5 to 10 complaints per 1,000 emails. Complaints as equivalent to marking as spam. If someone marks as spam, that's a complaint. So it's just tiny, tiny values, and the providers are accounting for the fact that some people are going to mark as spam just because it gets it out of their inbox. So if you know better that this actually says, hey, I don't want this piece of mail, and I think it's spam, you can make it better if you don't add to that, that margin where they're saying, oh, this is a complaint.
Right. So like if you're getting mail you did sign up for at one point, it's not unsolicited. If you want to stop getting it, there's usually an unsubscribe you can click, and that's usually much better. And if you hit the spam button, then you're...
Okay, I think Becca might be having connection problems, but what she's saying is don't click that mark as spam if you've signed up. There's an unsubscribe button in the bottom of the email, and you should always click there instead of the spam button if you can. If you know that you signed up for it, you just don't want to receive it. It's really bad for the sender. It's like bad karma even. You're damaging their sender reputation unnecessarily if you do that. Now, let's say, I'm sorry. You said that mark as spam button is one way to report, but is to report abuse. But what are there other ways that you could do that? That someone can say, hey, wait, this is spam. Like, let's say they don't have a mark as spam button, or they want to complain somewhere else. Are there other avenues for people to do that?
So you can report often to the abuse at for the domain. If someone is sending from a particular website, you can say abuse at that website, and that should be available. Often it's not in the, but it is for Mimi, and we're very, I say we because I worked there for a long time. It's hard for me not to say we.
Hey, you're part of the family, Sally. It's me.
So the companies that send and have an open abuse inbox are the ones you want to be a part of, because they care about what mail they're sending, and that's what the postmasters that you're sending to want to see is a responsiveness, not just of sending the right email, but if it appears that that's not the case, that you are looking into that and you're doing what you need to do to resolve that. So that's one way you can respond to the user, the sender themselves. Although if you do that, if you don't recognize the sender, if you don't trust them, it's better to go some other route, because that can cause more problems than it solves sometimes. The other ways are to hit the delete button or unsubscribe, but those are not. Those are things that are, as far as your reputation, as your delivery is concerned, it's a lot less of a problem than, say, the mark as spam button. It's still going to affect the reputation of the sender of that email, but it tends to be a lot less. The mark of spam is a very specific, I think this is spam, even though sometimes it's not used as that. That's the strongest indicator they have. And then the other indicators are deleting, unsubscribing, ignoring, stuff like that.
Now, the things that we're talking about in terms of that small margin that's allowed, and the history that's being tracked on how many times spam has been clicked for the sender. Who is it that's tracking those types of things? Is it the individual inbox providers, or are there other groups out there that check these sort of things?
Yes, all of the above. So if you're talking about a large provider with access to lots of different types of mail, lots of different types of mass mail, lots of people getting the same types of email, then they can use those statistics to figure out what people are responding positively to and what they're not. Those providers also use external blacklist filtering providers in conjunction with what statistics they have, just to widen that experience more, so that they have access to the widest possibilities, be able to pick up the what is called the signature of an email that is considered spam or and considered good, so that they know what to do with it.
Okay, so there's several different groups out there who are monitoring this sort of thing, and then they are also these are the same folks who are establishing then these guidelines and holding a sender like Mad Mimi to those certain metrics. Now let's look at it on the other side. So we talked about receiving spam and what's happening in my inbox, what's going on when spam comes in, real spam. And marking as spam or unsubscribing and the benefits there. Let's talk about sending. So if I'm sending through Mad Mimi, for example, I'm obviously being held to these standards because, you know, we don't send spam. We don't allow anyone to send spam, and you know, we get those feedback loops that you mentioned, and if they exist, and we can track those sort of things. But let's say this does happen. You know, people do mention this to, you know, this is a complaint. Let's say I'm sending an email through Mad Mimi and it ends up in someone's spam folder. What are some of the, I'm sure there's many things that could be happening, but what are some of the things that could be happening that could have my Mad Mimi email that I've sent with, you know, to my healthy list, and, you know, I am not a spammer. Why is it ending up in the spam filter?
So there are many reasons that could possibly happen. It should happen very rarely, but when it does, it can be because the filters that the providers are using are they can make mistakes because they are looking at the content of an email, and your content may look like a spam email they've received recently, because they're going to particular indicators, even if you have a domain name that's in that they're just trying to pick up on certain things, and it can be extremely hard because it might be that the spam is actually trying to look like good mail, so they can end up looking more like you. So that's one reason. Another is that there's lots of different ways that you can have a content that appears to look like spam. So if you have a very low text content and high images, that can appear as spam when it isn't. Just because spammers often use images to hide material that they don't want to be analyzed. So those are a couple of reasons. There are lots of reasons. I think a really good idea is to email Mad Mimi. and ask them, and they will be happy to take a look at your email, because there's lots of little things that could be happening, and they can look at it from their perspective, and they've seen many emails, and they know how people are likely to be reacting, and they can sometimes see things that may not be clear. So.
Yeah, and that's definitely the case. I mean, if you ever do see that, which is rare but does happen, you definitely need to let us know. But those things can be as simple as even all caps in your subject line. You know, these filters can be really sensitive, and so the things that can make your email look like a spam email, because, like Sally said, that spam emails are trying to look like your emails. They're trying to look like something that's legitimate and something that is something that you would have signed up for. And so anything that can trigger that is something that can throw it into that spam folder. So it is important to watch things like all caps or really salesy sort of language. And because that can affect those sort of things. Now, let's say that I have so I want to talk about the sort of sending reputation that you were mentioning before, that's being tracked, you know, by the email providers and by the organizations out there that are doing this. You mentioned the 1 in 1,000 spam complaints. I mean, and we know that's very low, but that's not the only thing that contributes to someone's sender reputation and the likelihood of their emails going into spam. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's different with every provider, and they have different thresholds, and they have different things that they focus on. Some feel that a read rate is very indicative of their customers wanting to receive a piece of mail.
Mm-hmm. What's considered a good read rate for someone to not have any concern about anything? You know, like really healthy, really good.
Really healthy is probably around 30% for marketing, but it's still good down to 10 to 15. If you're sending to your family, you should expect 60 to 70. Now, I know those sound like you want everybody to read. Well, the thing is that those people sometimes read emails without displaying images, and that's the only way that we can tell if someone has read or not. So just because it's not 100% and you fully expect that 100% of the people have read it, that doesn't mean that they didn't. It's just that it's not a perfect number, but generally, yeah, you shoot for, if you're marketing, if you're sending newsletters, I think shooting for 30 is a good number to go for.
So 30 is pretty healthy, and you said even down to 10 or 15 is okay. But if I'm down lower than that, so less than 10% of the people I'm sending to are opening my emails, do I stand to get damage to my sender reputation and possibly my delivery?
Yeah. If people aren't reading the email, if especially below 10 is, you need to improve that, and below 5 you're definitely going to be affected, because if the email is not seen as something that people want, then there's if the email provider delivered that to the inbox, then the users of that email service start to think of that inbox as being less valuable to look at. And so because that's their customers, they really have to choose to put it somewhere else.
And that makes sense with what you were saying before, too, is if I stop reading an email in my own inbox, eventually you said it, it'll end up in my spam folder. And so that fits along with those same kind of metrics that they're tracking.
Yeah. There's a wide range of filtering. Some email providers have the capability to do that. Some are simply looking for caps as a subject line, and there's a wide range. And even at the same provider, because of those signatures that I'm talking about, those email signatures that it's a spam that looks like your email, stuff like that can override a very smart filter and just send good mail to spam, and it doesn't seem to make any sense to a human, but it makes a lot of sense. This filter
So we talked about the views and that spam mark. Obviously, the marked as spam affects it. How about bounces?
Mm-hmm. So there are lots of different kinds of bounces. Bounces are just an indicator that an email it is not able to be delivered to, and that was reported back to the sender. In this case, Mad Mimi. So it can be invalid address. It can be that the email was thought of as spam, because sometimes bounces are it doesn't even arrive in the inbox. It just is bounced back to Mad Mimi, or in some cases it's not even reported back. So a bounce is just an indication that an email is not delivered, and that's I can go into more detail if you like.
Well, I'm wondering if those bounces will affect, or if there's a level of bounces that's okay, that won't affect me, or if I get over a certain amount of bounces, will that then start to affect my delivery and my ability to get my emails, or to keep my emails out of the spam folder?
Sorry about that. Yeah. So I would keep your you're going to have turnover. So I wouldn't be concerned if you have less than a 5% bounce rate that's consistent. It's better to have less. Ideally, you're going to have less than 1%, but sometimes when you have a list with high turnover, it can be up that high. If it's above 5% on a consistent basis, or if it's above 10 to 15%, even if it's that's if it's a newer if you've recently gathered those addresses from your customers or accounts, it can be higher. But that's about the level where you start to have delivery problems, is if it's above those levels.
What would a high bounce rate really mean? Like, if your list is getting high bounces a bunch, what does that say about your list or about your list gathering sort of steps? Is there anything you can sort of do to make sure you get less bounces? Is there a way to sort of cut those out more easily?
So the most important thing for your delivery, for the happiness of your users in the long term, is to do a confirmed opt-in. It's a little bit more work in the beginning. So that's when you have put your email address in to sign up, and then they receive an email in their box, and they click on that link, and that's something that Mimi's form has. So that's the very first thing you do, because that first confirms that the address is deliverable. Because if the email bounces, then clearly you can't confirm that email, and so that email never arrives on the list. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. Second is to not send too infrequently. You want to, if you're going to have a group of people that you're going to communicate with, you should definitely send every quarter, maybe every couple months. If you try, you'll want good content, of course. So there's a balance there. You need good content, and you need to send often enough. So just don't sit on a list for 6 months to a year and try to send and expect a low bounce rate, because there's a 33% turnover somewhere around there per year of a list, and it's just average because people are moving around, they're changing jobs. So and changing email providers, so you just have to make sure that you're up to date with them. And if you get a high bounce rate, and or you're sending to people that aren't there anymore, that's an indicator to email providers that that your list to them is not wanted, because the people may have wanted that email a long time ago, but now they don't. It's
right.
I mean, they're trying to account for companies that do send infrequently, but they're having to, it makes their job more difficult and makes it more likely that they're going to make a mistake with your email.
And I mean, just from an email marketing standpoint, it's a good idea to send sort of frequently, at least, so that people remember who you are and you stay sort of top of mind. Just as a marketing technique in itself, it's good to sort of keep in contact, remind people that you're there. So it's sort of works on more than one level to do that.
And from what you're saying, also, when you get their email, you want to mail that address as soon as you can, as soon as you possibly can, and have a reason to do it. Even just say hello. You just want to remind them, this is who I am. That's another thing that's important with delivery. If people know who you are and what your email is, they're more likely to open it, click on it, make it look wanted.
That's why an autoresponder is awesome, and we have drip campaigns at Mimi, but I'm sure a lot of other people do it too. But autoresponders are great because once somebody signs up and confirms, you can have a welcome aboard email sent to them right away and be like, hey, thanks for signing up. I'm so-and-so. Here's what I do. Here are some links you can check out. It's a great way to just make that quick introduction and get that email address sort of warmed up for receiving more of your mail. So definitely do that.
Yeah. So we mentioned two different things here which can greatly impact your delivery and making sure to keep your valid and opted-in emails out of the spam folder. And one of those is content, making sure that it is that it is not at all spammy. There's no caps. There's no lots of exclamation points. There's no free, or anything like that could possibly trigger, trigger a spam filter. Also, keeping the ratio of your images to your text nice, closer to 50-50, not too many images, because those can look like you're trying to sneak something through. But then also your list, and making sure that your list is, of course, opted in, but also recent. So within, as Sally said, don't sit on a list for 6 months. Even within a year, 33% of that list is going to be invalid. And so the higher your bounces, the lower your views, and obviously the more spam complaints that you actually get are all going to affect if your email ends up in the spam folder or not. And so I want to say, because I know some people have lists that they've had for a while, and the thought of having to get rid of those is a little devastating. But we have really, really fabulous integrations with folks who can help you increase your opt-ins and your legitimate opt-ins. They're direct opt-ins. People are signing up for your content, and they're new, and they're interested, and they're going to be opening your emails, whereas those people you're holding on to may not. And so I just want to mention LeadServe from Optintelligence. They are opt-in advertising. You set your budget to whatever you want it to be. You have an offer, and your ad shows up with your offer and the subscription form. and then they show that ad on all of their high-profile sites like Wall Street Journal, for example. And it's a fabulous way for you to get exposure and get signups that are opted in and are going to be helpful to your statistics. Mm-hmm. Another one that's really great, Becca, you can also jump in, or Sally, if you guys have any other ideas, but is Just Uno, which does promotion pop-ups on your site. So if you want to offer 20% off or you want to offer a free gift, you can have a pop-up with a sign-up box that just happens. And that's another really great way to gather signups that are healthy and interested and engaged. And then lastly, we have Interact, which is a cool way to really engage people who happen to head to your site or to share on socials, and you can get engagement that way. You create surveys or personality quizzes or any kind of interactive questionnaire, and that includes an opt-in as well. So people have fun. They like your questions. It was fun for them, and they then sign up for your content. And obviously these things are all supposed to be related to your content as well. As Sally said, like everything should be, nice and related and good content and frequent. But these are all nice ways for you to not have to rely on that 2-year-old list that is actually just going to hurt you in the end.
So I have one other thing. This can be a lot of work, but we sometimes work with people to do this when it makes sense, and you should contact Mimi if you have a list with an older list, but you have all the dates. If you feel like maybe some of these are too old, but you have all the dates that people signed up, you can segment that list into here's the newest stuff, here's some older stuff, here's some older stuff. Hey Mimi, I'm gonna send to the newest people. We're gonna see how they respond. If they respond really well, it's okay for you to send to the slightly older. There's then if you start to see some stats that are maybe too old, or if you get to where it is, a year back or more, then you really kind of have to stop no matter what. But if there's more, but right. if you do see good stats for some newer stuff, it is okay, because there is some flexibility there, because different lists and different types of content do respond differently. You're just much better off if you email Mimi and say, hey, here's what I'm doing. They're gonna they'll work with you to help increase the response of that list, because we really, really want you to be successful with that.
Exactly.
We want you to reach your customers. That's what we're here for.
Awesome. It's true.
No, right. And I would reiterate that you should let us know about this. Like, if this is something you want to do, it's great. We're all for it. But but we'll work with you to do that. Just because don't try this at home, kids. Only with a supervising Mimi professional. So yeah, just remember, guys, a single mark as spam isn't the end of the world, but it is something to be aware of. Be only sending to opt-in contacts that are recent. Keep your lists up to date, and make sure you're sending to the folks who are already engaging with your content and not the folks who aren't. If you receive email that you have signed up for and don't want anymore, please click the unsubscribe button and don't mark it as spam. And you can get killer spam recipes at spam.com/recipes.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Sally, for joining us. You guys can watch this anytime on YouTube, and have a lovely rest of your Wednesday.
Bye.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.